All right, hi. Welcome back to another gorgeous day up here in Northwoods. This time it's going to be a little bit different for me. Michelle is actually joining me this time. She's going to take her little Go Power e-bike down Bearcat Pass and see how it handles down a gravel trail. This will be interesting. I'm going to join her for a little bit, and then probably on the other end of it, I'm going to break off and head down Fun Guy and see what other kind of trouble that we can get into. So while we're out, I thought we'd chat a little bit about first getting into mountain biking. So we're going to get suited up, get these beasts unloaded, and let's see if we can't make today's ride beyond the last ride. So before we get started, I thought I'd give a couple of updates on some future plans. I know I mentioned in the previous video that we had a trip to Bentonville planned in the upcoming few days. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit gutted, but it looks like that's not going to be able to happen because Arkansas weather, yeah, it likes to really screw with our lives, especially when we make pretty solid plans like that. I'm trying not to be all upset and PO'd about it, and trying not to get into that mindset where, you know, every time that I make plans like that and really look forward to something, the rug gets wrapped up or ripped out from underneath me, because well, you know, that's not a healthy mindset. So I'm not going to say canceled, I'm just going to say postponed, because what we're going to do is the next couple of days off that I have after this week, we're going to make a couple of day trips up there, because after all, Bentonville is only about 3 hours or so away from where we're at. So it's not a total loss. I'm still going to take the 3 days off that I have coming this week and try to explore some other areas besides Northwoods or Cedar Glades, and see if I can't get into some trouble in some places that I've never seen before. So I was poking around on all trails the other day, and there are loads of other trails here in the Hot Springs area besides Northwoods and Cedar Glades. Don't get me wrong, I love Northwoods and I love Cedar Glades, but I know them like the back of my hand right now. So or at this point, so we need to branch out a little bit and do some exploring, because that's kind of what this is all about, right? So getting into mountain biking. So it seems like everybody that does a mountain biking YouTube channel, it's like almost obligatory that they've got to at least touch on this subject to try to help rein in some new riders into this pastime, into this sport or this obsession. And which is great, because there's in 2025, well, there's a lot of misleading information out there about everything. Especially with first getting into mountain biking. You got the bike industry trying to tell you, or trying to push to you, the latest and greatest and obviously the most expensive things. And not only that, you've got other influencers across YouTube and TikTok trying to tell you that if you're going to get into it, well, you have to have the certain high-end things, like you have to have through axles, you have to have a tapered head tube, you have to have a dropper post, so on and so forth. And I'm going to tell you that not a single word of that is actually true. Now, a lot of that is actually nice to have, especially if you want to get into actually upgrading your bike at some point. But when you first get started, not really. It's not required. It's not mandatory to have certain things like that. Oh, and what they'll also tell you is that if you're not spending anything more or anything less than $3,000, well, then that's just poor quality and dangerous. And it's just not true. It's just not true. But rather than me riding along this trail and telling you what I think you should do, I thought I'd start by telling you how I personally first got into mountain biking. Holy crap, this is a little steep. So the way I first got started, right? So back in 2002, well, let me back up. I was from 1995 until 2015, I was serving as a military policeman in the U.S. Army. And from 2000 to 2009, I was stationed in Schweinfurt, Germany. 2002, was deployed to Kosovo. While in Kosovo, somebody in my platoon had, I think, purchased this little grocery getter beater bicycle. Rigid frame. There was a bag rack on the back of it, I think. I mean, it was about as basic as you can get, right? And it was purchased so that the platoon could share it and help us get around the various amenities of Camp Bonsteel. Well, when it came time to go home, the bike was loaded into our Connex, and when we got home, when the Connex was unloaded, somehow this bike ended up in my possession. So this little grocery getter beat around bike comes home with me. Sometime later, after everything's all settled in, we're back home, we've done our block leave, it came time for my platoon to take its turn doing law enforcement, the law enforcement side of that job. Well, my first night back on the road, I come into the provost marshal's office for my shift. That's the MP station, and there was a guy working there at the desk, a desk sergeant, who I had never met before, and started talking to him, and it didn't take long. We hit it off pretty quick. It's a guy by the name of Sven. To be clear, he was an American service member, just like me, but he did have a very German name, and he also spoke fluent German as well. If I remember correctly, his mother was actually a German citizen, with his father having been a service member himself, and that's how he was created, if I remember the story right. But anyway, Sven and we hit it off pretty quick, and 5 minutes into the conversation, he hits me with, "Hey man, you ever go mountain biking?" And I was like, "Wow," kind of took me by surprise. That one was a little unusual. I hadn't really ever thought about it since biking around when I was a kid. Of course, that was my primary source of transportation back then. But going back to then, I thought, well, hadn't really tried it, hadn't really thought about trying it, but you know, what the heck? I'll try anything at least once, twice if I like it, you know? So I decided to go ahead and take Sven up on his offer. Well, we got a couple of our respective days off to align, and we made a plan. I was a little bit nervous because I knew that the only bike that I had was this little beat around bike that it wasn't a mountain bike. It did have all-terrain all-terrain tires, but that's about all it had going for it. So the day finally came around, and this would have taken us up to early 2003. Sven came over. He was rocking a full suspension Iron Horse. That's all I really remember from his bike. I do remember it looked pretty sick. And went downstairs to get my bike, and I was pretty humble and self-deprecating about it, saying something to the effect of, "Well, yeah, I know it's not much, you know." But Sven was kneeling down and kind of checking out the drivetrain at the time, and I will never forget what he said. He looks up at me, he grins, and he said, "Serves the purpose, doesn't it?" And I'll never forget that, because I think that's even more poignant now than even what it was back then, because of, like I said, the industry trying to push the latest and greatest on you, influencers trying to tell you a whole bunch of bunk. So I will never forget him saying that. And we took these bikes out. We took them down my street, down some stairs, up into the trails, and we had absolutely no business having as much fun as we did that day. And that bike had no business holding up as well as it did. But it did. And that, my friends, is a classic case of what they call run what you brung. Just whatever you can get your hands on and get out in the trail. That's exactly what I did. So which brings us to today. Does that actually work today? I would submit to you, yes. Now there is more to that story. There's plenty more to that story because yes, while it was a really, really fun ride, and that's what got me hooked into this little obsession, well, there was a crash towards the end of it. But you know what? I'm going to save that story for another day because that ties into why I will not get out on a bike without a certain piece of safety gear. And it's not what you think. I just gave you a hint. But anyway, so fast forward to today. What can a new person, somebody that's interested in joining this sport, what can they do to get their hands on a bike? Well, I've broken it down to 4 possible methods. 4 of the most common methods, actually, I should say. No particular order. It's used, department stores, online, and finally, probably the most ideal is the local bike shops. Now, I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna ride here and tell you what I think you should do, but I'll just talk a little bit about each one of these methods and what the pros and cons are of each of them. Let's start with used. So a new rider goes onto the Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or wherever else you can get a used bike these days. That's great, because that would be a really good way of getting something pretty high end at a really affordable price. My concern with that is somebody new gonna know what to look for to avoid inheriting somebody else's problems? Are they gonna know where to look for those hairline cracks in the head tube, or those hairline cracks in the bottom bracket? I don't know. That would be concerning to me. So those are the 2 pros and cons of that method. Now, the next one is a pretty big point of contention right now, especially on YouTube, and that's department stores. Now, there was a time where it was pretty much unanimous, don't go to a department store if you want to get into mountain biking, okay? It was just not a good idea, especially with the bikes that are found there having stickers on them that said not intended for off-road use, despite being supposedly full suspension bikes. Well, this in modern times, that's kind of changed a little bit. This Ozark Trail, that's Walmart's signature brand. They've got some pretty decent starter bikes there, and they've got all the bells and whistles that you might want to look for. The tapered head tube, a couple of them have through axles, the 1x drivetrain. There's one even coming out that's actually got a dropper post on it, whereas the ones that are out as we speak, they're at least dropper post capable, and they are very capable bikes. And the thing is, on YouTube anyway, there's folks that either love these bikes or hate the fact that they even exist. My concern about these bikes, now these are specifically the Ozark Trail bikes, the Ridge, the FS2 Slalom, which there was a point not too long ago, I kind of wanted an FS2 Slalom, but that was before I got into this bike I'm riding right now. It's a giant stance. I think it was a smarter choice. But anyway, these bikes that I mentioned, they're really good starter bikes for the beginner. My concern there is the fit of the bike to the rider. And this is a point where not a lot of YouTubers, other YouTubers that have touched on this topic, actually bring up. Because if you go to a department store, if you notice on the wheel sets, they've got these green and white stickers that tell you, yeah, this bike can be ridden by somebody between 5'9" and 6'2". It's not that simple, and I'm bringing this up because there's loads of people, especially if they don't know anything about this this activity, that seem to believe that a bike is a bike is a bike, or an adult bike is an adult bike, and that if it's not quite comfortable, well, they can just raise up the seat. There's way more to it than that. Somebody that's maybe, see, bike frames, mountain bike frames, they come in various sizes ranging from extra small to medium to large to extra large. And somebody that's, say, 5'2", or I'm sorry, 5'5", does not need to be on a large frame bike. They're going to have a bad time. Conversely, somebody like myself that's 6'3", I do not need to be on a medium or small bike. I'm going to get cramped. It's going to be a bad time. Accidents are more prone to happen. Injuries are more prone to happen. So department stores are still kind of lacking there in proper sizing for bikes to the rider. Not to mention that they only seem to go small, medium to large, which cuts out the really short people, the Seth Alvos of the world, the really tall people, the Brandon Hawkinses of the world. You know what I mean? So that's a really big concern that I have. Otherwise, these bikes are pretty solid. I never would have thought I would have been saying that about department store bikes. So the next point, or the next method, online. Online's not bad either, and it's a good way to get exactly what you might want. The last 2 bikes that I purchased have technically been online, but again, if somebody doesn't quite know how to fit the bike to their personal size, that could be a problem. Which leads me to the last point, and probably the most ideal, that's being the local bike shop. The local bike shop, not only will they find you exactly what you need to get you into a bike that, if I'm going to borrow a term, good enough for who it's for, they will help you fit or get into a bike that fits that rider perfectly, or at least that's what they should be doing. Not only that, but bike shops, the local bike shops, are a great way to find out about local trails in your area, group rides that happen so you can make some friends doing this. So when it comes to a new rider picking up a new bike, in my personal opinion, I think that's the best way to go, and I think there's not too many people that would disagree with me. But trying to avoid living in my own bubble, I mentioned these other points because not everybody has access to a local bike shop, or not everybody, more to a point, not everybody's got access to a local bike shop that they feel comfortable going into. For instance, in my local area, there's one really good local bike shop, despite the fact that we've got Northwoods up here and there's only one. And the problem there is they cater to a certain niche market within the mountain biking genre, and that's going to be high-end e-bikes, $4,000 to $10,000 rigs. Well, obviously that kind of alienates a good chunk of potential riders that might want to try getting into this. Now, they're great on services, and they're still a great source of information for somebody new. What they have to offer, though, as far as getting into a bike, not so much. However, I did just happen to think of another possibility that they do offer: renting a bike that you might want to try out, which is also a really viable solution. Now, one thing before I forget, there's also the option to buy online and have it shipped to a local bike shop. That's exactly what I did with the bike that I'm riding right now. I purchased it straight off of the Giant website. It's a Giant stance. Got a hell of a deal on it. Had it shipped to Spoke Cyclery, which is actually my favorite bike shop in my general area, even though I got to drive an hour to get to it. Had the bike shipped straight to them. The bike was professionally put together, and since I've been riding it, there isn't a single thing in the world that I'd want to change about this bike. So there is that option. So those are the pros and cons to all the different methods that I can think of for a new rider to get into a bike that would be generally cost effective. And how much you want to spend or what your budget is, that is of course completely up to you. Oh, and before I wrap this up, there is still that method regarding that story that I told at the beginning of this, where you can just simply run what you brung. Whatever you can get your hands on. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just get out on a trail. Use common sense, of course. Use some common sense, and I guarantee you, you're gonna have a good time doing it. Because at the end of the day, oh boy, I need a break for a second. At the end of the day, the important thing is to get out into a space like this, recenter your thoughts, and with everything going on in the world, recenter yourself, enjoy some peace and quiet, and some fun and some exploration. Maybe it'll help you remember that despite that everything going on right now, there's still quite a bit to fight for. So that's all I got to say on the matter. You tell me if you have any input or any questions or any prior experiences that you've had, good or bad, or at the very least, hit the like button, either way, up or down. Just let me know that you were here. And, but please, by all means, share with me your experiences. I appreciate you joining me on today's ride, and I hope that you're going to join me on the next one. And I really hope that in the future, you'll help me make my future rides beyond the last ride. Thank you very much. So lessons learned today. Michelle's e-bike here is not made for gravel. She is going to be staying on greenways from now on. And looks like I've got me an inner tube to change and some maintenance to do. We talked a lot about what's mandatory and what isn't, but I will tell you what's mandatory after every ride is street tacos. Okay, I'm done.